An invocation may take the form of supplication, prayer or spell. A form of possession. Command or conjuration. Self-identification with certain spirits. These forms are described below, but are not mutually exclusive. See also the G. Supplication or prayer. As a supplication or prayer, it implies to call upon God, a god or goddess, a person, etc. When a person calls upon God, a god, or goddess to ask for something or simply for worship, this can be done in a pre-established form or with the invoker's own words or actions. An example of a pre-established text for an invocation is the Lord's Prayer. All religions in general use invoking prayers, liturgies, or hymns. See for example the mantras in Hinduism and Buddhism, the Egyptian coming out by day, the Orphic hymns and the many texts, still preserved, written in cuneiform characters on clay tablets, addressed to Shamash, Ishtar, and other deities. As alternative to prayer, an invocation can also be a secular alternative to a prayer. On August 30, 2012, Dan Neron, a member of the Humanist Association of Tulsa, delivered a secular invocation to open a meeting of the City Council of Tulsa. Neron was invited to perform the invocation as a compromise following a long-running dispute with the City Council over prayers opening meetings. The invocation was written by Andrew Lovely, a member of the Southern Maine Association of Secular Humanists who had previously used the invocation in 2009 to invoke an inauguration ceremony for new city officials in South Portland, Maine. In this usage, it is comparable to an affirmation as an alternative for those who conscientiously object to taking oaths of any kind, be it for reasons of belief or non-belief. A form of possession. The word possession is used here in its neutral form to mean a state in which an individual's normal personality is replaced by another. This is also sometimes known as aspecting. This can be done as a means of communicating with or getting closer to a deity or spirit, and as such need not be viewed synonymously with demonic possession. In some religious traditions including paganism, shamanism and Wicca, invocation means to draw a spirit or spirit force into one's own body and is differentiated from evocation, which involves asking a spirit or force to become present at a given location. Again, Crowley states that to invoke is to call in, just as to evoke is to call forth. This is the essential difference between the two branches of magic. In invocation, the macrocosm floods the consciousness. In evocation, the magician, having become the macrocosm, creates a microcosm. Possessive invocation may be attempted singly or, as is often the case in Wicca, in pairs, with one person doing the invocation, and the other person being invoked. The person successfully invoked may be moved to speak or act in non-characteristic ways, acting as the deity or spirit. And they may lose all or some self-awareness while doing so. A communication might also be given via imagery. They may also be led to recite a text in the manner of that deity, in which case the invocation is more akin to ritual drama. The Wiccan charge of the goddess is an example of such a pre-established recitation. See also the ritual of drawing down the moon. The ecstatic, possessory form of invocation may be compared to low possession in the Vodou tradition, where devotees are described as being ridden, or mounted by the deity or spirit. In 1995, National Geographic journalist Carol Beckett described events she had witnessed during Vodou possessions. A woman splashed sand into her eyes, a man cut his belly with shards of glass but did not bleed, another swallowed fire. Nearby a believer, perhaps a yam farmer or fisherman, heated hand-wrought knives in crackling flames. Then another man brought one of the knives to his tongue. We cringed at the sight and were dumbfounded when, after several repetitions, his tongue had not even reddened. Possessive invocation has also been described in certain Norse rites where Odin is invoked to ride workers of Seidr, much like the god rides his eight-legged horse Sleipnir. Indeed, forms of possessive invocation appear throughout the world in most mystical or ecstatic traditions, wherever devotees seek to touch upon the essence of a deity or spirit. Command or conjuration. Some have performed invocation for the purpose of controlling or extracting favors from certain spirits or deities. These invocations usually involve a commandment or threat against the entity invoked. The following is a curious example of such an invocation, found engraved in cuneiform on a statue of the Assyrian demon Pazuzu. Although it seems to constitute an identification with the demon, it was actually considered a protective amulet with the power to command this entity not to harm people or their possessions. I am Pazuzu, son of the king of the evil spirits, that one who descends impetuously from the mountains and bring the storms. That is the one I am. Another example is found in the book Aradia, or the Gospel of the Witches during the conjuration of Diana, where the goddess Diana is evoked into a piece of bread and threatened to grant a wish. I do not bake the bread, nor with it salt, nor do I cook the honey with the wine, I bake the body and the blood and soul, the soul of Diana, that she shall know neither rest nor peace, and ever be in cruel suffering till she will grant what I request, what I do most desire, I beg it of her from my very heart. And if the grace be granted, O Diana, in honor of thee I will hold this feast and drain the goblet deep, we will dance and wildly leap, and if thou grants the grace which I require, then when the dance is wildest, all the lamps shall be extinguished and will freely love. Self-identification with certain spirits. Invocation can refer to taking on the qualities of the being invoked, such as the allure of Aphrodite or the ferocity of Kali. In this instance the being is literally called up from within oneself or into oneself, depending on the personal belief system of the invoker. The main difference between this type of invocation and the possessive category described above is that the former may appear more controlled, with self-identification and deity identification mixed together. In practice, invocations may blend many or all of these categories. See for example the Hymn to Astarte from the Songs of Bilitis, first attributed to a contemporary of Sappho. Mother inexhaustible and incorruptible, creatures, born the first, engendered by thyself and by thyself conceived, issue of thyself alone and seeking joy within thyself, Astarte. O, perpetually fertilized, virgin and nurse of all that is, chaste and lascivious, pure and revelling, ineffable, nocturnal, sweet, breather of fire, foam of the sea. Thou who accordest grace in secret, thou who unitest, thou who lovest, thou who seizest with furious desire the multiplied races of savage beasts and couplest the sexes in the wood. O, irresistible Astarte! Hear me, take me, possess me, O, moon! And 13 times each year draw from my womb the sweet libation of my blood. References. External links, Supplication from the Quran in the Sunnah, Origins of Voodoo.